Hi guys, my name is Jasminder here. So I'm a solution architect within Amazon Web Services. So what I thought today I would do is talk to you a little bit about what Amazon Web Services is, what cloud computing is, and how you're all using it every day, and how we're helping space builders build solutions even today and for solutions for tomorrow as well. So let's dive right in, and then we'll jump into questions at the end. Hopefully, I'll be able to excite you with some of the cool projects I've been involved in and are working on as well. First of all, I want to make sure we all understand what cloud computing is. Effectively, you can all think about cloud computing as delivery of IT resources. So think of turning on a light bulb at home. When you turn on light switch, your power comes on and you have the light in your room. And when you don't want to use it anymore, you turn it off. Effectively, you only end up paying the electricity company for the amount of time you've used the electricity. The fundamental principle of cloud computing is the same. You end up using IT resources for only the amount of time you want to use them, and then you simply turn them off, and you only pay for what you use. These resources can be as simple as using a computer, using a server, running a website, or a mobile application. And hopefully, I'll give you some examples as well, which will help you understand how companies today, and even you as customers, are using cloud computing every day without even knowing it. I think one of the biggest things to think about and remember how AWS is helping customers is this global infrastructure. So AWS is located in multiple regions of the world. That's more than 25 regions. And this helps customers put their solutions not only in one geography. So you could be using a service built out of the United States, or you could be servicing customers in South America, which a lot of our startups, a lot of our organizations, which are out of Australia, are doing today. In addition to that, you can make solutions or your applications which run all the time. So no matter what happens in part of the world, the applications don't die. The websites or the services continue to keep running. And so I think one way to think about AWS is, if I was to run a business, or if I was to start building something, what might I need? Maybe I need a database. Maybe I need a blockchain solution. Or maybe I just need some media services to, post some videos online. This is where AWS can help you so that you don't have to build these services yourself. If you don't know anything about databases and how to install them and how to run them, then you can simply come to AWS and leverage or use a database service provided to you where you don't have to worry about spinning up a database. You simply say, this is all the data I want to put into a database, and everything underneath is operated and run for you. So your database continues to keep running, or your website continues to keep running. You can extend this out to doing machine learning in the cloud, just storing your data, your photographs, or making really, really complex applications as well, as some of our customers do. So you might say, Jazz, who is using AWS today? Well, there's a lot of customers across the world, over 190 countries, which use AWS or Amazon Web Services. You might recognize some of the names here, like NASA JPL, or NVIDIA, or maybe Tinder as well, or even other services, which are like Dow Jones running the Nasdaq Stock Exchange, or more Australian organizations as well, like the ATO or Australian Post. But maybe let's talk about some examples which might be closer to home, or you might echo with you much better. Did you know that Fortnite, which is run by Epic Games, runs entirely on AWS? As you can imagine, it's used by a lot of customers and players around the world. In fact, over 200 million players around the world use AWS services without even knowing them to play the game Fortnite. How cool is that, right? I think the key takeaway here is that in order to service, or in order to create a service or an application for that many users, you often don't know how to worry about that amount of scale. Well, the good news is you don't have to. this is where cloud computing can really help you build solutions which you can deliver to a very, very large number of people and not have to worry about all the infrastructure and all the services underneath, all the servers you have to run in different parts of the world to provide that service to your customers. So if you're thinking about building the next Fortnite, well, there are services there for you, which you can easily use to build that. Maybe another example, I'm sure everybody understands or knows Borderlands 3 or the Borderlands games. So again, Gearbox Software, which is a customer for AWS, uses Amazon Web Services to run their entire platform and to make sure all those players who log on to play Borderlands 3 are able to do so without, any issues. And again, it's supporting millions of concurrent players and thousands of authentications per second worldwide. So again, to think about, if my customers are all over the world, as space customers generally are, then you can really deliver a service which is available all the time and scales globally. Maybe an example much closer to home. I'm sure you guys all know it's kind of tax time right now, and I'm sure your parents or yourselves as well in the future will be filing your tax returns. Well, the ATO runs all of its infrastructure on Amazon Web Services as well, so that once a year, when they have this huge surge in demand of everybody trying to file for their tax within a very short period of time, which is a couple of months, they see their infrastructure used very, very heavily. So they have to make sure that the tax submission website or their application and platform don't go down and they continue to running. So good news here is the ATO can just start using more resources during this busy period. And when the tax submission time ends, they can simply turn off all those compute resources, all those servers and databases and websites, because they don't need them anymore, and they don't have to pay for them anymore. And the best thing is they don't have to buy them. It's all on demand. Basically, you just turn off the power as you would do at home, and you just turn it off when you don't need it. So how does all this apply to space? Well, so you might say, or let me inform you, space customers today are using AWS to design and build satellites. So when you design and build satellites, you have to, before you even put together the physical components, you put together the components virtually to make sure, will this work? You simulate it, you test it, and that's how we're helping customers within design and build. As Ben was talking about launching rockets, all those launch operators who are launching the rockets as well, they have to do complex calculations as well to make sure, where is my rocket going to go? What is its trajectory going to be? Those applications and services are also being run on AWS. Finally, when you have a satellite in orbit, you have to control the satellite. You have to make sure it doesn't run into anything else. For example, another satellite, and it makes a mess. You have to make sure it's pointing the right way. You want to have your satellite pointing towards Earth. You don't want it pointing towards the moon or anything like that. So you have to do satellite maneuvers as well. All of those applications are also running today on AWS. Finally, all that satellite data, which the satellite is taking pictures or having used sensors, it needs to be downloaded back to Earth and then used and provided back to you in the way of Google Maps, for example, or weather services. So we also help customers being able to download that data and also upload data to satellites if need be, like instructions. Then this data is used across multiple industries. Industries like agriculture, shipping, maritime, defense, climate change, water monitoring, or ocean monitoring, bushfires. So I'll show you an example later as well, where an Aussie startup is using satellite imagery to fight bushfires as well. Hopefully this will give you an idea of how a large industry like space is still broken up into smaller components. And in each one of these components, there are so many roles to do, there are so many jobs and so many different ways that cloud computing is contributing or helping customers build. So if you ever want to think about going into each of these little segments and you go, I want to work with the ground segment, the ground stations, then you can still think about, I wonder if I can download satellite imagery from a satellite today. And the answer is yes. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. How I help customers today is I bring my cloud expertise and I couple that together with their space expertise. So customers again might ask me today, hey Jazz, I want to download, satellite imagery. How can I do that easily? I don't want to set up my own antenna, but I do have a satellite in space. I don't want to run the antenna myself. I might say to them, hey, there's a service called AWS Grand Station, which helps you download data from your satellites on demand. So you can simply come in and figure out when your satellite is going to be overhead and schedule a contact with the satellite. So as you can imagine, satellites go around the Earth fairly quickly. If you are in low Earth orbit, you are traveling around the Earth around 27,000 kilometers per hour, which is very fast. So a typical contact with a satellite, when we talk to a satellite, is generally between 7 to 10 minutes, or maybe a little bit more than that. And in those 10 minutes, you're able to download all the pictures or the data that the satellite has gathered. And traveling at that speed, you can have multiple passes in a day. So a satellite will do an orbit, which is a full circle around the Earth, in about 90 to 120 minutes, which is about 2 hours. So you can do multiple passes around the Earth. You can take photos of the same area again and again to make sure what's changing there, or to monitor it for any changes as well. For example, bushfires or weather patterns or agriculture as well. So this is one service where you can today, even as students, go online and download data from public broadcast satellites. So NASA has a lot of public broadcast satellites as well, like Aqua and NOAA, and you can actually really download satellite imagery from them yourself today if you really wanted to. And it only takes a couple of minutes to set up, and you will have to wait until the next pass, but you're able to do that yourself. Here's another example. There's an organization or a company called Capella Space who use Amazon Web Services to again access satellite data within minutes of capture. So Capella has many hundreds of satellites around the Earth. And it's very important for them that when a satellite is able to take a picture of some part of the Earth, that they're able to bring it down back to Earth and provide it to their customers really fast. And again, you might imagine, this is where we can really use AWS's global infrastructure. Hey, they are located in every country. We don't have to put our own servers, our own storage in those countries. We can just use AWS's network to really move the data or provide the data to the customers wherever they might be. So this is how Capella is using AWS to really accelerate or provide services, typically in the past, which have taken up to 24 hours. Maybe an example much closer to home. I'm sure you all know of bushfires that affect Australia every year. So Fireball International is an organization which is helping fight bushfires with their frontline workers. They're able to detect a bushfire in 3 minutes. How cool is that? So they have discovered, and also I'm sure we all know, when bushfires occur, they travel very fast and can be very devastating. So the time between a detection of somebody seeing smoke on the horizon and calling the police or calling the fire services to say, I think there's a bushfire over there, to have them respond, can mean the fire can have moved hundreds of kilometers. However, so Fireball is able to use machine learning and process over 2.5 million satellite images every day to look for wildfires. And if they find a wildfire, they're able to detect it very quickly and then inform authorities or inform frontline workers to be able to respond to that. They do this in Australia. They also do this in the United States and California as well. So I wanted to say that to you because I wanted to understand that when you build solutions for a global problem, you can deploy the solutions in multiple parts of the world very quickly, which is important because space-based solutions are applicable everywhere in the world. So your customers are not just in one part of the world. You have to really start thinking global. One of my other customers, Digital Earth Africa, they also use AWS to make continental scale high resolution satellite images. So as you can imagine, if you have a camera and you take a photo, you can only take a photo of a certain area. So what if you wanted to take a photo of an entire continent, like Africa? That's a lot. So what you have to do is take a lot of photos with a lot of satellites, but then you have to stitch them all together. And once you stitch them all together, then you can make a prediction or insights using those. Well, Digital Earth Africa and also Digital Earth Australia use AWS to do that within minutes of capture, so almost 800 times faster than before when they used to do it in previous methods as well. This allows them to look at really large bodies of land very, very quickly and able to draw insights, see how the land is reacting, how it's responding to the climate, to people as well over time. Maybe something a little bit more cooler now as well. Let me show a small video about what I spoke about satellite design and how one of my customers is helping build satellites. This video will just show you how quickly you're able to build a very small satellite, a 3U satellite, which is about yay big, and able to predict or even design where you will put it in orbit. So right now, you're putting on some solar panels on a satellite, and they're being deployed as well, which allows you to see how they will deploy in reality when the satellite is put into orbit. And once you've designed your satellite effectively, you can always add more components to it. You can define an orbit for it as well. And the goal of putting it in orbit is to be able to, again, plan where your satellite is going to be, what is it going to be looking at, and what do you want it to look at as well around the globe, and what do you want to visualize when you want to take pictures of or sense on the ground, and how often is it going to be able to do that every day. So you can do all of these things in virtually using AWS services or using some of our customers' services, which are built on AWS, and you can simulate that in reality. Again, this platform is available to customers all over the world, and the customers are using it to build and predict or simulate satellite behavior before it's even launched, which is very important because it allows you to see how satellite might behave as well. I will progress from the video. One of the last questions, the last slides I want to show you before we dive into some questions is that if you ever thought about, I want to actually have access to some free data or some open data or some satellite imagery, well, you're in luck. AWS hosts over 400,000 scenes of Earth or over 200 terabytes of Earth observation imagery for free. So you can use it, and researchers, organizations use it all over the world for research and development, for their postdoc work, as well as creating new models of machine learning, detecting change over large periods of time as well, because we need to be able to have an archive over the last 10, 20, 30 years of how the Earth has changed to be able to really see very, very quickly or very easily how that change in waterways, in change in climate has really impacted the lives of people, or how the planet around us is changing as well. So all of this data is available publicly and accessible to everybody. Hopefully, this has given you a little bit of an insight into how AWS is helping space customers build solutions today. With that, I will open up the floor to your questions. I'm often asked to say, don't ask, do you have questions, but ask, what are your questions instead? Because that forces the viewer to think about some questions.
Yeah, thank you, Ronan. We have a few questions here for you today. How did you manage to get a job at Amazon Web Services?
Can I say I was very lucky? I had colleagues in the industry who were working at Amazon, and they said to me, Jazz, this is a very exciting opportunity. Why don't you come help us out? Because we want to grow the space sector in Australia and then across Asia Pacific. And that allowed me to interview for a role, which was very difficult, I have to say. I had to prepare a lot, but with preparation, I was able to succeed. And that's how I started working at Amazon 2 years ago.
Here's an interesting question. Do you play games? Do you play Fortnite? Do you play Valorant? and do games. If you can get a gaming career at Amazon Web Services, is that possible?
Absolutely. I do play games, yes. It does help me, especially in lockdown these days, to kind of stay sane and disconnect sometimes and have a break. But yes, as you can see, a lot of the technology which is used to simulate satellites is actually using gaming technology. Amazon does have a games division. They also create games themselves as well, but also support customers like Fortnite and to deploy those games or help take those games to market. So a career in gaming again is a very big industry, is definitely possible and at Amazon, and you'll definitely succeed.
Yeah. What have you used cloud computing for?
Me personally, I think I probably use cloud computing every day from running simulations to running simple websites, if I want to run my own blog, to creating mobile applications, creating applications for iPad or Android devices. I think those have been some of the projects. And personally, at the moment, I'm trying to figure out a way to use my drone and the video from my drone coupled with machine learning to find me, to basically detect me in a scene and essentially come to me. So a little bit of a plumbing together of different things, but yeah, trying to do that.
Yeah. Do you need a strong understanding of maths to get a job at AWS?
I would say, depending on the role you do, possibly. For example, if you wanted to go into machine learning, then you might need a strong understanding of maths. Across the technology field, having a good understanding of math is important. Yes.
Here's another cloud computing question here for you. How does AWS deal with people using cloud computing for illegal reasons, like maybe hosting illegal streaming sites?
It's a very good question. We effectively, I would say there's two roles to play here. One is of customers using them. So we want to make sure whenever customers sign up to AWS that they sign a pledge or they sign a contract to say that we will use the services properly and not for any wrong means. At the same time, we're as an organization are responsible for making sure that when they deploy something to market or use it for wrong reasons, that they are monitored as well, monitored from a perspective of what are they doing. So we have a mechanism where we have others tell us as well. So the public can inform us as well of something being done wrong, as well as we continually audit of what services is being used for what purpose.
Yeah. And do you have any goals for your future, or I'm assuming for your career?
My current goal in the next 6 to 12 months is to grow the satellite industry, or to help it really build and to develop a very strong workforce. For me personally, I would love to go into space. I think that's going to be super cool. I think go to Mars probably is on the bucket list somewhere as well. But I think my passion personally is to build capability. I love teaching and informing others, and yeah, that's probably my goal across. So to create a more passionate audience or participants, students, or builders, and really help them succeed.
Yeah. Do you have any work experience for year 12s or high school students for Amazon Web Services? Yeah.
We do have a large intern program where we do hire young adults as well. I off the top of my head, I don't know actually if we actually bring in year 12 students, but that's a great suggestion. I think I'll take that on and take it back to my recruitment team as well and ask them to do that.
Yeah. I think we have time for one final question. Here's an interesting question. Have you ever met Jeff Bezos before?
Unluckily, no. Every time he's come to Australia or been in this part of the world, I have missed him. So, but there's always time. And I'm sure he will probably travel to Australia as well in the near future. When he does, I'll make sure I say hello to him.
Yeah,